I woke up and realized I had returned to the past, 10 years to be exact. I was back to being the pathetic fool I was in my 20s, madly obsessed with the ice-cold CEO, Victoria Sterling, and about to stage an earth-shattering public confession of love. In my previous life, I gave her everything, only to end up destitute, my family ruined, and my life in shambles. This time, I had a rude awakening. To hell with love, I just wanted to make money. But I never expected that the moment I turned my back on her, the ice queen who had always looked down on me would start to panic. I was reborn. The scene before me was the Summit, the city's most exclusive rooftop restaurant in Manhattan. I had rented out the entire top floor. Sitting across from me was a woman named Victoria Sterling. She was dressed in a custom-made white suit, her hair swept up elegantly, radiating a cold, untouchable aura. She was looking down at her Cartier watch. "Jared, you have 5 minutes," she said. Her voice matched her personality. Temperature, 0. A buzzing sound exploded in my brain as the fragments of my memory instantly pieced themselves together. Today was the turning point of my previous life, and the beginning of my descent into becoming the city's biggest laughingstock. On this day in my past life, I, Jared Stone, the sole heir to Stone Enterprises, had summoned a lifetime of courage to confess to Victoria, the woman I had chased for 3 full years. I had prepared a cerulean star diamond necklace worth $15 million, booked out the Summit, and arranged a drone light show to ask her to be my girlfriend under the gaze of the entire city. The result? She gave me 5 minutes. The moment I took out the necklace, she said, "Jared, your affection feels cheap to me." Then she walked out, leaving me alone with the grand light show that was about to start for a leading lady who was already gone. I became a joke. From that day on, I became synonymous with doormat. To prove my love wasn't cheap, I started spending money on her without limit. When her company's capital chain broke, I secretly mortgaged my own shares to fill the hole. When her competitor stole business, I used my family's connections to settle it for her personally. When she got sick, I abandoned a crucial board meeting to stand guard outside her hospital room for 3 days and nights. I thought sincerity could move mountains. What I got in return was her skipping my father's funeral to accompany a foreign business partner. It was her agreeing to get engaged to me, only to cancel it without hesitation the moment her first love returned from abroad. In the end, Stone Enterprises was bankrupted by my actions, my family destroyed. On a rainy night, soaked to the bone, I went to find her, begging for a small loan to bury my mother. She stood under an umbrella, looking down at me with eyes devoid of emotion. "Jared, I told you, your affection is cheap. Now you are too." I died inside that rainy night, and shortly after, died for real in a car accident. "Jared, you have 3 minutes left." Victoria's chilly voice pulled me back from the hellish memories. I looked at her. This face had once been the center of my universe. Now I just found it laughable. I picked up the red wine on the table, poured myself a glass, and swirled it slowly. "Ms. Sterling," I began, my voice so calm it surprised even me. "Do you know how much this dinner cost?" Victoria's brow furrowed imperceptibly. She clearly hadn't expected me to ask that. "The venue rental, 100 grand. The water in front of you was flown in from the Alps, 2,000 a bottle. The chair you're sitting on was designed by an Italian master, 20 grand. With every sentence, Victoria's expression grew colder. She thought I was using this vulgar display of wealth to buy her attention again. I smiled, raised my glass, and drained it. Then, under her stunned gaze, I picked up the velvet box containing the cerulean star beside me. Click! I opened the box. The massive blue diamond sparkled with a blinding brilliance under the lights. In my last life, I had held this out like a clown, presenting it to her. Victoria's eyes flickered. She seemed to anticipate my next move, leaning back slightly in a posture of defense and rejection. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" I asked. She didn't speak. $15 million, I said, lifting the necklace, my fingers rubbing the cold diamond. "It could buy a nice villa in the Hamptons, fund 1,000 scholarships, or bring a dying factory back to life. But I think it has a better use." With that, I dangled the necklace, stood up, and walked toward the massive floor-to-ceiling window. Victoria's expression finally changed. She stood up. "Jared, what is the meaning of this?" I ignored her. I opened the window, and the night wind howled in. Below was the glittering, traffic-filled cityscape of New York. I held up the necklace, facing Victoria, and flashed a smile she had never seen before. "Ms. Sterling, thank you for the last 3 years. You taught me a valuable lesson. Money really is a good thing, but spending it on you? That's just a waste." As the words fell, I let go. The cerulean star, worth nearly a fortune, traced a faint blue arc through the air and plummeted into the endless darkness of the night. without making a sound. Victoria's pupils contracted violently. She rushed to the window and looked down, but saw nothing but the endless stream of traffic. She spun around to look at me, her eyes filled with shock and disbelief. "Are you crazy?" "No, I'm clearer than I've ever been." I walked back to the table, picked up my coat, and put it on. "Oh, right," I said, stopping at the door and glancing back at her. "From today on, don't come looking for me. I'm very expensive. You can't afford me." With that, I pulled open the door and strode out, leaving the restaurant manager and the waiters with their jaws on the floor. Behind me was Victoria, frozen in place, in a room full of dead silence. I knew she didn't get it. She thought this was just some new tactic to get her attention. She could never imagine that the Jared Stone who had revolved around her for 3 years had already died on that rainy night. The one living now was a madman who only cared about making money. Walking out of the summit, I took a deep breath of the cool night air. Refreshing. I felt a sense of ease and freedom I hadn't felt in years. I pulled out my phone. In my contacts, the pinned chat with Victoria was still lit up. My last message to her was, "Victoria, 7 p.m., the summit. I'll wait for you." Her reply was a single word, K. I looked at that K and laughed. In my past life, that single letter had made me happy as a fool. I didn't hesitate. Delete chat. Block contact. The full service. After doing all that, I hailed a cab. I didn't go back to the luxury apartment I had bought just to be close to Victoria's office. Instead, I headed to the Stone family estate in Greenwich. On the way, I started planning my next moves. It was 2014, an era paved with gold. Bitcoin hadn't skyrocketed yet. The mobile internet boom was just opening up. Short-form video platforms hadn't formed. My brain was loaded with the wealth codes of the next 10 years. It would be hard not to get rich. As for Victoria Sterling, she and her Sterling Corp could stay on their predetermined track. In this life, I wouldn't fill a single pothole for her. I was even looking forward to seeing how the high and mighty Ice Queen CEO would look when Sterling Corp encountered the crises I had once solved for her. When I got back to the estate, my parents hadn't slept yet. Seeing me, my mom immediately came over, worry written on her face. "Jared, how did it go? Did Ms. Sterling accept you?" My dad sat nearby. Though he didn't speak, he couldn't hide the concern in his eyes. In my past life, this was exactly when I had come home looking like a lost soul, making them worry right along with me. I looked at the gray hairs that had appeared on their temples without me noticing, and my heart ached. I'd been such a bastard in my last life, breaking their hearts for a woman who didn't love me. "We broke it off," I said with a smile. "Broke it off?" My mom was stunned. "What do you mean? You two weren't even." "It means we have nothing to do with each other anymore." I walked over and gave her a hug. "Mom, I was immature before. I won't be like that anymore." My mom was flustered by the sudden hug, patting my back. "Child, what nonsense are you talking about? Did something happen?" My dad stood up, walked over to me, and scrutinized me carefully. "You've thought it through?" he asked, his voice low. "I have." I nodded seriously. "Dad, regarding our family business, is there a shipment stuck in South America?" My dad's eyes sharpened. "How did you know?" This was a company's secret. To keep me from getting distracted, he had kept it from me. I knew, of course. In my past life, this specific shipment had nearly snapped Stone Enterprises' capital chain, turning my dad's hair white overnight. Eventually, I had shamefully begged Victoria's father and paid a huge price to solve it. "Dad, don't worry about how I know," I said, helping him sit down. "Contact them immediately. Abandon that cargo. Right now, we can afford to lose the deposit, but if we get dragged in, the whole company will go under." "Nonsense." My dad slammed the table. "That cargo is worth $50 million. You want to just abandon it?" "Dad, it's a trap. That partner in South America has already colluded with our rival, Horizon Global. They intend to use this shipment to bleed us dry, then acquire our shares at rock-bottom prices." My dad looked at me in shock, his lips moving but no sound coming out. This was top-level confidential information, some of it merely his own suspicion. How could I, a trust fund baby who spent all day chasing a woman, know this so clearly? "Dad, trust me this once." I looked him in the eye, speaking every word with deliberation. "Within 3 days, Horizon Global stock price is going to crash due to a data fabrication scandal. What we need to do right now isn't to save that cargo, but to liquidate everything, gather all our cash, and short Horizon." My dad's breathing quickened. He looked at me, his eyes full of scrutiny and doubt. I didn't explain further. I knew that for a reborn person, any explanation sounded flimsy. The best proof was facts. "All right." After a long silence, my dad spat out a single word. "I'll trust you this one time." He turned and picked up the phone to start issuing orders. My mom watched us from the side, looking worried. She wanted to say something, but ultimately stayed silent. I breathed a sigh of relief internally. I knew that starting tonight, everything would be different. Early the next morning, I was eating breakfast when a strange number called. I picked up, and a cool voice, laced with a hint of urgency, came through. Jared, it's Victoria. I had almost forgotten. Although I had blocked her on social media, she still had my phone number. What is it? I asked, chewing on a piece of bacon, slurring my words. Victoria seemed to choke for a second on the other end. She had probably never imagined I would speak to her in this tone. About last night. I am sorry. She paused, then added, I will reimburse you for the necklace according to its market price. No need. I took a sip of coffee. I threw it away because I wanted to. Just a worthless trinket. The other end of the line fell into a long silence. I could imagine her expression right now. Brows furrowed, unable to comprehend. A $15 million necklace was a worthless trinket? Jared, she spoke again, her voice now carrying a trace of probing curiosity. What exactly are you trying to do? If you think last night wasn't enough and you're using this hard-to-get game to attract my attention, I advise you to save your energy. I laughed. Ms. Sterling, do you maybe have too high an opinion of yourself? I put down my fork and wiped my mouth. I told you, I'm not interested in you anymore. Don't call me again. I am busy making money. With that, I hung up directly and added her number to the blacklist. The world was finally quiet. For the next 2 days, I didn't step a foot outside the Greenwich estate. I listed all my sports cars and properties, except for the estate itself, for sale. In my past life, I had bought these to show off my capability to Victoria. Now, they were just piles of concrete and moving scrap metal. I needed cash, massive amounts of cash. On my dad's side, he followed my plan, quietly terminating the South American contract and mobilizing all the company's liquid assets. The entire Stone Enterprises was in a strange atmosphere, calm on the outside, tense on the inside. On the morning of the third day, the moment the market opened, Horizon Global's stock price began a cliff-like drop, exactly as predicted, without any warning. A scandal regarding severe financial data fabrication at Horizon exploded across the internet via a major financial influencer's Twitter account. When a wall is about to fall, everyone gives it a push. Dirt on Horizon started popping up everywhere. My dad sat in his study, personally directing the operation as our traders frantically shorted Horizon stock. In just one morning, the funds in Stone Enterprises accounts doubled. My dad stared at the numbers, his hands trembling with excitement. He rushed out of the study, grabbed my shoulders, his eyes red. Jared, how did you know? I smiled. Dad, I'm your son. I have to grow up sometime, right? I couldn't explain the rebirth, so I just used that as a deflection. My dad looked at me as if he were meeting me for the first time, examining me closely. Finally, he patted my shoulder heavily. Good. The prodigy of the Stone family has finally come of age. I felt a mix of emotions. I was a whole lifetime late for this praise. Just as our family was celebrating this massive victory, my phone rang. It was a text message from an unknown number. It's Victoria. I'm outside your gate. Come out. I frowned. How did she find the estate? In my past life, she had never come here once. I walked to the gate and, sure enough, saw Victoria's white Bentley parked nearby. She was leaning against the car, still in a business suit, but her face held a trace of exhaustion and anxiety I had never seen before. What is it? I stood at the gate, offering no invitation to come in. She looked at me, her eyes complex. The Horizon situation. You did it. She got straight to the point. So what if I did? So what if I didn't? I countered. Horizon Global is a crucial partner for Sterling Corp next quarter. You destroyed them. What about our projects? Her tone carried a hint of interrogation. It was like hearing the world's biggest joke. Ms. Sterling, are you confused? Horizon is my rival. I took them down. That's natural selection. As for your projects, what the hell does that have to do with me? You. Victoria's chest heaved violently. She was clearly infuriated by my words. She was probably used to the Jared who obeyed her every command and couldn't adapt to this version of me covered in thorns. Jared, do you have to use this method to get revenge on me? She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. I know rejecting you embarrassed you, but business is business. You can't be this emotional. Revenge on you? I dug a finger in my ear. Ms. Sterling, let me say it again. You really overestimate yourself. I shorted Horizon simply because they were in my way, and it made me money. As for you, you don't qualify as a reason for me to bankrupt a publicly traded company. My words were like a knife, stabbing ruthlessly into her arrogant heart. Her face went instantly pale. Good. Very good. Don't qualify. She bit her lip and nodded. Jared, remember what you said today. She turned, opened the car door, and got in. The engine roared, and she quickly vanished from my sight. I watched the direction she left, feeling nothing. I told the truth. In my past life, I would have given my life for her. In this life, she was no different from a rock on the roadside to me. I turned back to the house to discuss with my dad how to swallow the market share left behind by Horizon's collapse. That was what I truly cared about. As for Victoria and her Sterling Corp, without their crucial partner, Horizon, their troubles were just beginning. And none of it had anything to do with me. The collapse of Horizon Global caused a massive earthquake in the business world. And Stone Enterprises, as the biggest winner of this event, was in the limelight like never before. My dad used the momentum to push me onto the stage, appointing me vice president of Stone Enterprises. The outside world thought my dad was the mastermind. Only a few people knew the real operator was me, the young master formerly known as a useless simp. I began frequently attending various business galas and negotiation tables. I had changed. That was the unanimous evaluation from everyone who knew me. The old me, in these settings, would have my eyes glued to Victoria. She was the focal point. I was just a dim satellite orbiting her. The current me was the focal point. I acted swiftly and decisively. Any project I set my sights on, I got. Anyone who tried to play games with me ended up crying for mercy. My reputation gradually spread in the circle. Some said I was reborn. Others said I had revealed my true nature. But without exception, no one dared to mention the word simp in front of me again. That evening, there was an official business summit. I attended on behalf of Stone Enterprises. At the venue, I saw Victoria again. She was thinner, and her complexion wasn't great, but she maintained that cold, arrogant demeanor. Horizon's fall had impacted Sterling Corp significantly. I heard she had been running around trying to find new partners, but it didn't seem to be going well. Our eyes met in the air for a second. I gave her a polite nod, then looked away as if I had just seen a random passerby. Her gaze, however, lingered on me for a long time. In that look, there was curiosity, confusion, annoyance, and a trace of loss she might not have even realized herself. She didn't understand. She didn't understand why the man whose heart and eyes used to be full of her had become so indifferent. She thought I was still using some advanced method to gain her attention. She didn't know that I had truly moved on. Halfway through the reception, while I was chatting happily with a potential partner, Victoria walked over with a wine glass. "Mr. Stone," she began, her voice cool, using a brand new title. "Long time no see." The partner beside me saw it was Victoria and immediately found an excuse to walk away, knowing the score. In the large corner, only the two of us remained. "Is there something you need, Ms. Sterling?" I swirled the champagne in my glass, my tone distant. "I heard Stone Enterprises is bidding for the land in the South Side?" she asked. I raised an eyebrow. The South Side plot was the core of the government's future plan district. Its value was immeasurable. Almost every real estate company in the city was eyeing it. Naturally, Sterling Corp was no exception. "So what if we are? Let's cooperate," she said, stating her purpose. "Sterling Corp has experience in real estate, and Stone Enterprises has the capital. If we join forces, our chances of securing that land are the highest." I laughed. In my past life, she had said the exact same thing to me. Then, after securing the land, she kicked me out of the game citing creative differences and swallowed all the profit herself. The same trick, trying to use it twice. "Ms. Sterling, why do you think I would want to partner with you?" I looked at her, amusement in my eyes. "I can secure that land perfectly fine on my own." "You?" Victoria's face darkened. "Jared, I know you still have a grudge against me, but we're talking business now. Can't you separate public and private matters?" I have always separated public and private matters. I dropped the smile, my face turning cold. It is precisely because I separate them that I won't choose Sterling Corp as my partner. "Why?" "Because your company's credit is terrible." I leaned in close, lowering my voice. "Do you think I don't know? How many dual contracts did you sign under the table during your cooperation with Horizon? How many kickbacks did you pay to relevant personnel to get projects? No one dared to investigate these things before. But now that Horizon has fallen, do you think those skeletons can stay in the closet?" Victoria's face turned deathly pale in an instant. She looked at me in shock, as if looking at a demon. These were Sterling Corp's deepest secrets. Apart from her and her father, no third person should have known. "How did Jared know?" You investigated me?" Her voice was trembling. "Investigated you? Ms. Sterling, you overestimate yourself again." I took a step back, creating distance. "I simply feel that partnering with a company like yours, ready to explode at any moment, is too big a risk. I, Jared Stone, do not make losing deals." With that, I stopped looking at her and turned to leave. Behind me, Victoria stood frozen, her grip on her wine glass unstable. She looked at my retreating back, and for the first time, fear appeared in her eyes. She realized she had never truly known me. The man she once had wrapped around her finger had, unknowingly, turned into a beast she couldn't control at all. And she seemed to be becoming this beast's next prey. What she didn't know was that I had no interest in her even as prey. I simply didn't want to be entangled with her anymore. I was busy making money, busy laying out my business empire. I had no time to play these boring emotional games with her. I walked out of the banquet hall and called my assistant. Those dirt files on Sterling Corp we collected earlier? You can release them now. Remember, anonymous. Keep it clean. Hanging up, I looked up at the moon in the sky. The moonlight tonight was beautiful. It was time to let Sterling Corp taste what Horizon Global tasted. This wasn't revenge. This was clearing a roadblock. The bomb under Sterling Corp exploded faster and more violently than I expected. Early the next morning, several mainstream financial media outlets simultaneously published deep dive reports on Sterling Corp's alleged commercial bribery and contract fraud. The chain of evidence was complete, the logic clear. It was obviously a prepared hit. Sterling's stock price plummeted in response, hitting the limit-down circuit breaker less than half an hour after opening. Panic spread through the market as countless retail investors and institutions frantically dumped Sterling stock. The PR department at Sterling was in chaos, but no matter how they denied the rumors, it seemed weak. Because the things in those reports were true. Victoria was overwhelmed. Her father, the chairman, reportedly was so angry he was hospitalized. The entire Sterling Corp was teetering in the wind and rain. Meanwhile, I sat leisurely in my office, drinking my dad's prize tea. Assistant Mike knocked and entered, unable to suppress the excitement on his face. Mr. Stone, everything is going according to plan. Sterling stock has dropped below our warning line. Should we start? No ruse. I waved my hand. Wait a bit longer. Wait. Mike was confused. Now is the best time. If we wait, what if other capital enters the market? Then let them enter. I leaned back in my executive chair and closed my eyes. What I want isn't to loot a burning house, but to remove the fuel from under the cauldron. I want Sterling Corp to completely lose the possibility of turning the tables. Mike nodded, seemingly understanding, and withdrew. Of course I wasn't in a rush, because I knew Sterling's real crisis hadn't arrived yet. In my past life, Sterling had encountered a similar crisis. Back then, I used all the Stone family's connections, even kneeling to ask my grandfather's old war buddy to intervene to help them suppress the storm. But this time, no one would help them. Not only that, I was going to stomp on them when they were most desperate. Sure enough, by afternoon, heavier news arrived. The Tax Bureau and the Commerce Department had formed a joint investigation team and officially entered Sterling Corp to conduct a comprehensive audit. This time, Sterling was truly finished. Even a god couldn't save them. My dad called me, his voice full of emotion. Jared, that move was ruthless and precise. The old man of the Sterling family is going to fall hard this time. He brought it on himself, I said indifferently. So when you plan to make your move? My dad asked. Wait, I stuck to that one word. Wait for what? Wait for Victoria to come beg me. My dad fell silent on the other end. He probably thought I still held a grudge against Victoria and wanted to humiliate her. Only I knew. I wasn't doing it to humiliate her. I was doing it for a promise. In my past life, my mother was critically ill and passed away. I went into the rain to beg Victoria for money to bury her, and she coldly refused me. In this life, I wanted her to taste what it felt like to have nowhere to go and no one to turn to. This wasn't revenge. It was karma. Victoria came on the third night. She didn't drive. She took a taxi alone. Standing downstairs at the Stone Enterprises building, she looked up at the brightly lit tower, her eyes full of complex emotions. The front desk stopped her, saying she couldn't go up without an appointment. She waited in the lobby, from 7 in the evening until 11 at night. My assistant asked me several times if I wanted to let her up. I said no. At 11:30 p.m., I finished the last file in hand and got up to go downstairs. The lobby was mostly empty, except for her, stubbornly sitting on the sofa. She looked haggard, her makeup a bit smudged, but her back was still perfectly straight. Seeing me come down, she stood up immediately. Jared, she spoke, her voice hoarse. I walked past her without squinting, as if I hadn't seen her. Jared, she chased after me, blocking my path. Ms. Sterling, can I help you? I stopped and looked down at her. Let's talk. She looked at me, a hint of pleading in her eyes. It was an expression I had never seen on her face. Is there anything left for us to talk about? Yes. She gritted her teeth. I know you orchestrated Sterling Corp's crisis. I don't know how you knew those secrets, But right now, only you can save the company. Me? Save Sterling. I laughed. Why should I? As long as you agree to help, I'll agree to any condition. Her voice began to tremble. Shares, projects, even me. She didn't finish, but I knew what she wanted to say. It was nothing more than what I had desired most in my past life. Pity. I didn't care for it anymore. Ms. Sterling, you still don't get it. I interrupted her. I have absolutely no interest in your company, your projects, or your body. What I want is simple. I leaned close to her ear and whispered, so only the two of us could hear. I want you to get on your knees and beg me. Her body went rigid. She looked at me in disbelief, her eyes instantly filling with bloodshot veins. Humiliation. Naked humiliation. Who was she? She was Victoria Sterling, the favored daughter of heaven, the high and mighty Ice Queen CEO. Why had she ever suffered such indignity? Jared, you bastard. She raised her hand to slap me. I caught her wrist easily. Her hand was cold and trembling slightly. What? Unwilling. I looked at her, smiling like a devil. Then don't waste my time. Sterling Corp's bankruptcy liquidation process should start very soon. You better go back early and prepare for your father's funeral. I released her hand and turned to walk away. Wait. Behind me came her voice, choked with tears. I stopped walking but didn't look back. I heard a dull thud behind me. I turned around. Victoria Sterling, the woman who had been proud her entire life, was on her knees, kneeling right there on the cold marble floor. Her head was bowed low, her shoulders shaking violently. Repressed sobs echoed in the empty lobby. Jared, I beg you, save Sterling Corp. I looked at her, feeling no joy in my heart, only a vast hollowness. I walked over to her, squatted down, and looked at her tear-stained face. Victoria, do you remember? 3 years ago, on a rainy night, my mother was critically ill. I went to you to borrow money. I knelt before you just like this, begging you. What did you say back then? Victoria's body trembled violently, her face pale as paper. She remembered. Of course she remembered. You said my affection was cheap, and that I was too. Now tell me, how much is your kneeling worth? I stood up, looking at her no longer. Go home. I dropped those words and walked out of the building without looking back. Behind me were her cries of total collapse. I didn't turn around. Karma is a cycle, and retribution never misses. This kneeling wasn't me humiliating her. It was her paying the debt for the cold, heartless version of herself from the past life. I didn't actually pull the rug out from under Sterling Corp completely. On the day before Sterling was set to declare bankruptcy, I had an investment firm, Understone Enterprises, acquire over 50% of Sterling shares at a rock-bottom price, becoming the majority shareholder. At the same time, I used some methods to make the joint investigation team lift their heavy hand and place it down gently. Sterling Corp was saved, but it was no longer the Sterling family's company. It belonged to the Stones now. I convened the first new shareholder meeting for Sterling. At the meeting, I removed Victoria's father from the chairman position and took it over myself. As for Victoria, I demoted her from CEO, my personal assistant. When I announced this appointment, the entire conference room went into an uproar. Everyone looked at me and Victoria with strange expressions. Everyone knew our history. This move by Jared Stone was simply executing the heart, turning the once high and mighty goddess into his personal gopher, fetching tea and water at his beck and call. This was more painful for her than killing her. Victoria sat across from me, pale, but she didn't object. She just watched me quietly, her eyes holding complex emotions I couldn't read. After the meeting, everyone wisely left, leaving only the two of us in the room. Why? She finally asked. Why not just destroy Sterling? Why keep me? Because destroying it is too easy on you people. I leaned back in my chair and lit a cigarette. I want you and your father to watch with your own eyes as I turn your family's legacy into my possession, step by step. As for keeping you, I blew a smoke ring, watching it dissipate in the air, because I think having you fetch me coffee will be entertaining. Jared, you're a devil, she said, enunciating every word. Thanks for the compliment. I smiled. Starting tomorrow, Assistant Sterling, report to my office at 8 a.m. 1 minute late, and I deduct $100. With that, I got up and left the conference room. I knew that from this moment on, the positions between her and me were completely reversed. Once, I was the satellite chasing her light. Now, she was the planet revolving around me. This game was getting interesting. Victoria really came to be my assistant. The next morning, when I arrived at the office at 7:59 a.m., she was already standing at the door. Dressed in a standard business skirt suit, hair meticulously pinned back, delicate light makeup on her face, though her eyes were still slightly puffy. She held a thermos cup in her hand. "Good morning, Mr. Stone. Here is the coffee I brewed for you." She handed me the cup, her voice calm, devoid of emotion. I took it, opened it, and smelled it. Blue Mountain coffee, black, no sugar. It seemed she remembered my preference. I grunted a response and walked into the office. She followed me in and began organizing files and reporting the day's schedule methodically. Everything was done in perfect order, impeccable. It was as if she were born to be an assistant. I sat in the executive chair, watching her busy back, feeling a strange sensation. I had thought she would slack off, sabotage me, or use various ways to express her dissatisfaction. But she didn't. She behaved like the most professional subordinate. This made me somewhat disappointed. What I wanted was to see her struggle, her unwillingness, her anger, not this submissive appearance. "Assistant Sterling." I spoke up. "Mr. Stone, do you have instructions?" She immediately stopped her work and turned to look at me. "My shoes are dirty." I pointed at my leather shoes. She paused. The air seemed to freeze for a moment. I saw her hand quietly clench into a fist at her side. Her chest rose and fell slightly. I knew she was angry. Good. This was exactly what I wanted. I wanted to tear apart her pathetic pride bit by bit. "Didn't hear me?" I hardened my tone. She took a deep breath, and then, slowly, she squatted down. She took tissues from the cabinet nearby and began to wipe my shoes earnestly. Her movements were light and careful, as if wiping a precious work of art. Looking down on her bowed head, I could only see the top of her dark hair. My heart didn't feel the expected pleasure. Instead, there was a trace of irritation. Just then, the office door was knocked on. My assistant Mike poked his head in. "Mr. Stone, the auction for the Southside land is about to start." "Got it," I replied. I pulled back my foot and stood up. "Let's go, Assistant Sterling. Come with me to the auction." Victoria stood up slowly, her face expressionless. "Yes, Mr. Stone." Looking at her, I suddenly felt bored. Teasing a cat with no claws wasn't that interesting. The auction for the Southside land was unprecedentedly grand. Almost all powerful real estate companies were present. I walked into the venue with Victoria, instantly attracting everyone's attention. People looked at Victoria behind me with varying expressions. Pity, schadenfreude, contempt. Victoria seemed not to see these gazes, following me expressionless, holding my briefcase. The bidding began. The price climbed all the way up, quickly breaking $5 billion. The players left on the field were just us, Stone Enterprises, and another old real estate giant, the Holt Group. The representative for Holt Group was the Holt family heir, Liam Holt, a young man about my age, and one of my rivals in love from my past life. He had always been interested in Victoria, but she had never given him the time of day. Seeing Victoria behind me, a flash of amazement crossed his eyes, immediately followed by a playful smirk. Well, isn't this Mr. Stone? Such a big spender, taking over Sterling Corp in one go. What? Did you take our beautiful Ms. Sterling is part of the package too. Liam spoke loudly. People around heard it and erupted in laughter. Victoria's face went pale, but she remained silent. I glanced at Liam and ignored him. $5.5 billion. I raised my paddle directly. Liam smiled and followed. 5.6. $6 billion. I was expressionless. 6.1. Liam didn't give an inch. As he raised his paddle, he looked at me provocatively, his eyes drifting to Victoria behind me from time to time. I understood his meaning. He wasn't fighting me for the land. He was fighting me for ego, for a woman. Laughable. I didn't take him seriously at all. The price soared to $7 billion, far exceeding the normal valuation of this land. The CFO my dad sent whispered in my ear, "Mr. Stone, we can't add more. The risk is too high." I ignored him. I glanced at Victoria behind me. She was looking at me too, worry in her eyes. "Jared, don't be impulsive," she whispered. "This land isn't worth that price." I smiled. She thought I was fighting Liam out of spite. She didn't know that this land would be worth at least $20 billion in the future. Getting it for 7 was practically stealing it. 7.5 billion. Liam gritted his teeth and shouted a new price. This was probably his limit. He stared at me dead on, hoping I would fold. I picked up the paddle, ready to bid. Victoria suddenly grabbed my arm. "Don't add any more." She looked at me, genuine pleading in her eyes. "I'm begging you." She was probably afraid I would act impulsively for her sake like in the past life, dragging the whole Stone Enterprises down. Looking at her hand gripping my arm, a wicked thought suddenly spawned in my mind. I leaned into her ear and whispered, so only we could hear, "Want me to give up?" "Sure, kiss me." Victoria's body went instantly rigid. She jerked her head up to look at me, eyes filled with shame and disbelief. People around were watching us. Though they couldn't hear what we said, judging by our posture, they could guess. Liam Holt's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Jared, you're shameless. Victoria gritted her teeth, squeezing the words out. I'll give you 3 seconds to consider. I looked at her, my eyes icy. 3, 2. Just as I was about to say 1, Victoria suddenly stood on her tiptoes and quickly planted a kiss on my cheek. A warm, soft touch gone in a flash. I froze. The entire venue went instantly quiet. Everyone stared at us, dumbfounded. Liam shot up from his seat, pointing at us, too angry to speak. Victoria's face was red enough to bleed. She quickly lowered her head, afraid to look at anyone. I touched the spot where she kissed and smiled. Then I put down the paddle in my hand. Mr. Holt, congratulations, I said to Liam. The land is yours. With that, I grabbed the still-dazed Victoria and, under everyone's shocked gaze, turned and left the venue. Liam stood frozen, his face alternating between red and white. He won the bid, but lost the war completely. He became the joke of the room. Walking out of the auction hall, I threw off Victoria's hand. Assistant Sterling, your guts are getting bigger, daring to act on your own in that kind of setting. My voice was cold. Victoria kept her head down, silent. You think I actually care about that land? I sneered. You think your cheap kiss could actually influence my decision? I didn't. She whispered a rebuttal. Didn't what? I stepped closer. Do you still think I'm doing all this to get your attention? Do you still feel that you're special to me? Let me tell you, Victoria, that kiss just now made me nauseous. From now on, stay away from me. With that, I stopped looking at her and walked straight to my car. Behind me, Victoria stood rooted to the spot, shoulders trembling slightly. Through the rearview mirror, I saw her slowly squat down, hugging her knees like a child abandoned by the whole world. A trace of reluctance flashed in my heart, but soon it was replaced by a deeper indifference. I started the car and sped away. I didn't tell her that I gave up the land, not because of her kiss. It was because I knew that in 3 days, serious soil contamination would be detected on that land, and its value would plummet. In my past life, it was Liam who bought this land and lost everything, causing the Holt Group to collapse. I just went with the flow and let her misunderstand. I wanted her to understand that she had no privileges with me anymore. Her joy, anger, sorrow, her sacrifices and efforts meant nothing to me. I wanted to use this method to slowly grind away that laughable fantasy in her heart. Back at the company, I locked myself in the office, feeling inexplicably irritable. Her kiss, filled with desperation and shame, kept flashing in my mind, and that lonely, helpless back view of her squatting on the ground. I lit a cigarette and took a hard drag. Jared, you can't go soft. Did you forget how you died in your last life? Did you forget how she treated you? This woman is poison. You absolutely cannot touch her again. As I was thinking, my phone rang. It was my dad. Jared, are you crazy? A $7 billion plot. You just gave it up? My dad sounded agitated. Dad, trust me, I said. 3 days. In 3 days, Max, you will thank me for today's decision. Yep. My dad wanted to say more. Dad, I'm a bit tired. Hanging up now. I ended the call and tossed the phone aside. I needed to calm down. I opened a drawer and took out a photo frame. It was a picture of me and my mom. She was smiling gently in the photo. Looking at it, my eyes stung. Mom, don't worry. In this life, I won't let anyone hurt us again. Those who hurt us, I will make them pay back 100-fold. 3 days later, news of the Southside land's soil contamination exceeding standards hit the headlines. Holt Group's stock crashed. Rumor had it Liam's legs were broken by his father, and he was grounded for 3 months. The business world was once again shocked by my God-tier operation. Everyone said I had foresight and a lethal eye. My dad held a celebration banquet at home, inviting all my uncles and elders, and announced in front of everyone that I would officially take over as president of Stone Enterprises. I became the true helmsman of the Stone family. That day, I drank a lot. Back home that night, I was a bit drunk. Lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. Like a man possessed, I picked up my other phone. This phone had only one contact, Victoria Sterling. It was the number I hadn't blocked. I clicked on her social media. Her feed was very clean, almost empty. The latest post was from 3 days ago. No text, just a picture. A photo taken on the roadside. In the photo was a roasted chestnut cart. Under the dim street lamp, an elderly woman with gray hair was hunching over, picking out steaming hot chestnuts from the roaster. I froze. I recognized this cart. It was in an unremarkable alley right behind the Sterling Corp building. In my past life, I loved eating chestnuts from there. Once I bought a bag to give to Victoria. She had frowned and said, I don't eat this kind of street food. Since then, I never went back. Why would she post this photo? An emotion I couldn't name surged in my heart. I put down the phone, turned over, and forced myself to sleep. When I woke up the next day, I had a headache. I asked Victoria to bring a file to my house. She arrived quickly, still with that strictly business appearance. Only her complexion was even worse than before. "Mr. Stone, here is the file you wanted." I took the file, but didn't look at it. Instead, I looked at her. "You didn't sleep well last night?" I asked. She paused, then lowered her head. "No. Is that so?" I stood up, walked to her, grabbed her chin, and forced her to look up at me. Her eyes had heavy dark circles, and her lips were dry and cracked. "Victoria, you're lying." My thumb rubbed her smooth chin, feeling the coldness and fineness of her skin. Her body was trembling slightly. "Jared, what exactly do you want?" She looked at me, water shimmering in her eyes. "You've already won. Stone Enterprises is yours. Sterling Corp is yours too. Keeping me by your side, torturing me like this every day, humiliating me. Does it give you pleasure?" "Yeah." I looked at her, smiling cruelly. "Seeing you like this, I really do feel pleasure. Didn't you like being high and mighty? Didn't you think everyone should revolve around you? And now? Now you're just a dog by my side. You do whatever I tell you to do." My words were like the sharpest knives, cutting into her heart one by one. Her tears finally couldn't be held back, sliding down her cheeks. "Jared, I hate you." She looked at me, her voice filled with despair. "Then keep hating." I released her and stepped back. "Hating me is better than loving me. At least hate keeps you awake." I turned around, not looking at her. "Get out." I heard her suppressed sobbing and her stumbling footsteps leaving. The door closed. The room returned to silence. I walked to the window, watching her walk out of the residential complex like a lost soul and hail a taxi. My heart felt like it was viciously squeezed by something. Pain. Why did I say those things? I clearly didn't think that way. I was just afraid. I was afraid of seeing the tenderness in her eyes, afraid of her getting close to me again. I was afraid I would repeat the same mistakes. I picked up the phone and clicked on her post again. I looked at that photo of the roasted chestnuts for a long, long time. Then, I put on my clothes and went out. I drove to the alley behind Sterling Corp. The old lady selling chestnuts was still there. I walked over and ordered a bag. "Young man, haven't seen you in a long time," the old lady said cheerfully while picking chestnuts for me. I paused. "You remember me?" "Of course I remember. Didn't you used to come by them all the time? You said you were buying them for the girl you liked." The old lady handed me the chestnuts. "So, did you catch her?" I took the chestnuts, the scalding heat transferring from my palm to my heart. I smiled bitterly and didn't answer. "A few days ago, that girl came too," the old lady suddenly said. My heart skipped a beat. She came to buy chestnuts." "Didn't buy any." The old lady shook her head. "She just stood for a long, long time. I asked her if she wanted some. She said she didn't eat them. Then she took out her phone, took a picture, and left. When she left, I saw she was crying." The old lady sighed. "Young people these days, I really don't get it. Why can't you just talk things out properly?" I stood there holding the roasted chestnuts, feeling like I'd been struck by lightning. "She came here. She stood for a long time. She cried. Why? She didn't eat street food, did she? Didn't she think this stuff was cheap?" A crazy thought flashed through my mind. I threw down the chestnuts and ran to my car. I called Assistant Mike. Immediately. "Investigate Victoria's entire itinerary for the past 3 years, especially where she went and who she met. I want the most detailed file." I drove like a madman, aimlessly speeding through the streets. My heart was pounding like it wanted to jump out of my throat. Half an hour later, Mike's email came through. I pulled over to the side of the road, my hands trembling as I clicked it open. The email contained a detailed record of Victoria's last 3 years. Besides the office and home, there was one place she visited most frequently, the West Side Cemetery. My mother was buried there. She went almost once a month, rain or shine. At the end of the email, there was a note from Mike. "Mr. Stone, we found something else. 3 years ago, on the rainy night your mother passed away, Ms. Sterling actually prepared cash and was heading to the hospital. However, she got into a car accident on the way and was in a coma for 3 days. By the time she woke up, you had already—" Mike didn't finish the sentence, but I understood everything. I understood all. In my past life, I hated the wrong person. That rainy night, she didn't fail to come. She couldn't come. She wasn't refusing to save my mom. She didn't make it in time. She rejected me, called my affection cheap. Not because she truly looked down on me. She simply didn't know how to respond to my affection that was so scorching it frightened her. She went to the cemetery to see my mom. She went to the chestnut stand I used to visit. She was just using her own clumsy, silent way to respond to me. And what a bastard I was. I came back to life, and what did I do to her? I trampled her dignity under my feet. I used the most vicious language to hurt her again and again. I made her kneel. I made her kiss me. I treated her like a dog. I simply wasn't human. I slammed my fist hard onto the steering wheel. Tears I couldn't control surged out. I was wrong. I was dead wrong. I took out my phone, trembling as I dialed her number. The phone rang for a long time before being picked up. Hello. Her voice came through, hoarse and thick with nasal sounds. Victoria. I started, my voice choking so hard it was barely recognizable. I am sorry. Silence on the other end. I am sorry. I am sorry. I repeated it like a madman. Jared. She finally spoke after a long time, her voice terrifyingly calm. Is this another new game you're playing? No. Victoria. I remember everything. I understand it all now. I'm sorry. I was a bastard. I misunderstood you. Where are you? I'm coming to find you right now. No need, she said. Daret, I'm tired. Whatever was between us, let it end here. With that, she hung up. When I called back, the user was busy. She had blocked me. I drove like a lunatic to her apartment. Knocked on the door, no one opened. I slammed into the door, couldn't break it. I got a locksmith to open it. The apartment was empty. Her things were gone. On the table, only a piece of paper remained. It was a signed resignation letter and a plane ticket to Switzerland. Departure time, 2 hours from now. I looked at the ticket, feeling the world spin. No, I can't let her go. In this life, I can't lose her again. I rushed downstairs like a madman and drove toward the airport. On the way, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered, and a man's laughing voice came from the other end. Mr. Stone, hope you've been well. This voice, it was Liam Holt. You? Where did you hide, Victoria? I roared. Hide? You must be joking, Mr. Stone. I simply offered Ms. Sterling a choice she couldn't refuse. Liam laughed. She should be on her way to Switzerland by now. Oh, right, forgot to tell you, I'm on that flight too. Mr. Stone, thank you. Thank you for hurting her so deeply, giving me the chance to slip in while her defenses were down. Have fun playing by yourself. Victoria and I are going to see the snow in Switzerland. The call cut off. I slammed the brakes, the car screeching to a halt and leaving harsh skid marks on the road. My hands gripped the steering wheel deathly tight, knuckles turning white. My eyes were bloodshot. Liam Holt. Victoria Sterling. Switzerland. No, I won't let you succeed. In the last life, I went mad for you. In this life, I'll become a god for you. Victoria, wait for me. I'll search heaven and earth to bring you back. This time, it's my turn to chase you.